I'm really honored today to introduce our speaker of the day. I'll read his official bio. He's an Aztec. He earned his BS there, right? Thank you, Jordan. Then he went and got his master's of education at Harvard, and then he came back to San Diego, where he worked with reality changers. And then he was the vice president of Impact there for 8 years, and you're currently the director of diversity, inclusion, and equity at Vertex Pharmaceutical. And in his third time, he's working on his third year getting his PhD. So, pretty educated guy right here. So, Jordan, come up. Welcome aboard.
My name is Jordan Harrison. I am excited to be with you all here today to talk about, and I'll talk about more. I thought about it, we're at the Jackie Robinson YMCA. So we can't be out the why and not talk about the why of Rotary. So we'll take a journey from there and then go from there. So I want to talk about, and I'll make sense of it a little bit later, but first I want to thank President Michael Brunker for inviting me to come speak. Thank Jordan and Becky for just being incredible, having the best executive director team across all of Rotary International. I think that's the setup. Everyone else, who?
Like the shoes.
Thank you, Judy. Like the shoes. Appreciate it. So this is my story's going to start. I think the last person I'd also like to bring into this space as well is the person who gave me this pen, who became a mentor of mine and saw me at a Rotary meeting and said, "Hey, Jordan, you're missing something." His name was Chuck Pratt. Right after he saw me, he went, dug into his pocket, pulled out this little name tag and said, "Here you go. Now you're a Rotarian." I was like, "All right, thank you." But in that moment, he reminded me of what the Rotary spirit is. And no matter what context or community, being able to see if something's not in line or if someone's not fully involved, what is my role in saying, and there's something that might be missing. Kevin Lewis of UCSD and his work at UCSD suggests that part of the meaning of life is the community processing and understanding of what things matter, what things don't, what we learn, what we don't, and where we go from there. So my question for us today is, what are the ands that we're sitting with, or more importantly, that Rotary requires us to think about every single day? What are those moments where maybe you said, there's something more to life that seems out of place, and I think I had this moment that helped me see it. On the next slide, you'll see a photo right here on El Cajon Boulevard. That was my and moment when I worked under the incredible leadership of Tamara Craver, a fellow Rotarian, and worked at Reality Changers and had a student call me at 10 p.m. The student called me because him and his family were now sleeping in their SUV outside of this motel right there on El Cajon Boulevard. And they were living in this motel. Apparently, after you stay in a motel over 30 days, you're considered a resident, so you can't live there. So he called me because he said, "We're back paying, you can't afford this, and now we have to sleep in the car for the night." It was him, his younger brother, his mom, and his dog called Max. And he said in that moment, in his tears while I was giving him a hug, was, "I wish we didn't have to sleep out in the cold." It was one of those hand-reckoning moments that said, this is why I'm in Rotary, this is why life sometimes is challenging, but more importantly, this is why we exist to challenge some of the things that just seem out of place. It wasn't him not having a name tag, it was him not having a place to sleep with his family and his dog named Max. And that left me feeling like there might be something weird here that maybe I could do. On the next slide, I want you all to think briefly about what was your Rotary moment. Maybe that moment of reckoning when you noticed an injustice, when you noticed someone didn't have clean water, didn't have a book to read, didn't have clean clothes, didn't have nothing. What was that moment? And how did it inform not only your life in Rotary, but possibly your life in its entirety? You see, that moment for me was a moment that I realized I wanted to double down on youth development, their access, and realizing that every young person, no matter their background, deserves to have a place to live, some food, and their basic humanity rights being met. Rotary understands this as well, and on the next slide it shows you the areas that we focus on as Rotarians, in case you didn't know: environment, peace building and conflict prevention, disease prevention, water sanitation, maternal health, basic education, community economic development, and so much more. You see, part of my journey as a Rotarian actually started when I joined this club in 2018, 2019, Jordan, correct me if I'm wrong. But since then, it's allowed me to go around the world speaking to Rotarians on their journey. You'll see in this next slide some of the places that I've been able to go while representing San Diego Rotary, all across Southern California, all across Canada, places in Europe, all across the East Coast, thinking about what is the moment that we are in time now in Rotary. Oftentimes I follow the international presidents and they often speak about the challenge we're facing in Rotary in North America. The challenge being, how do we remain relevant? How do we reflect the communities that we serve? How do we grow? And where do we go from here? Time after time, I get to discuss with Rotarians strategies, ideas, challenges of what is the and moment that we're in as Rotarians and what can we do. This opportunity over the last 4 years, on the next slide, and quickly twice, has allowed me to speak at 6 president-elect conferences, 23 district clubs, and 22 district conferences, and 82 different clubs around the world. Simply thinking about what is Rotary and what is our commitment to the world that we are in now. In case you all don't know, this Jackie Robinson Why, although it's full, the world is full of Rotarians interrogating that very question of what is our why and why is it that we exist, and more importantly, what are some of the ands that we have to sit with. When I was in a conference in Canada, on the next slide, you'll see a few of the things that I had to think about when I think about some of the ands we wrestle with as Rotarians. So on the next slide, you'll see a few of them. You'll see one. Awakening to pain and its existence. On the next one, awakening to resistance and its existence. The next one, awakening to grief and its existence. The next one, awakening to joy and its existence. And as Rotarians, I can believe you all on this one, awakening to a hangover and its existence. Yes, that can happen as well. But these are the things that we sit with as Rotarians. Being audacious enough to go into places where we see things might be broken, where we see things can actually be better, and saying we are going to solve the root cause of it, and really think about how do we hold grief, how do we hold pain, how do we hold ourselves together after too many cervezas, but more importantly, how do we stay committed to the ands of life that we oftentimes come across. The human experience that brings us to the emotions, the raw emotions of suffering, of challenging, and the work that we all have to do. What I'm also reminded upon every time I go to Rotary Club is I oftentimes meet a few women that are, 50 plus or so, and they're like, Jordan, I was one of the first women in my Rotary Club, and it was like 20 years ago. I was like, oh, sad, that's crazy. But we've come a long way. On this next slide, it shows here that in over 116 countries and regions, Rotary has over 30% or more women Rotary members. And the reason why I bring this up, because it just speaks to the work that we're doing as Rotarians around the world, thinking about what's next for us and how we remain relevant. Because on the next slide, I'm reminded of our why as we think about sitting in the Jackie Robinson Why together, which is what we do for others, what we do for ourselves dies with us. But what we do for others and the world remains and is immortal. I started off by asking you all, what was your Rotary moment? And I want you all just to sit with that and think, as we continue on this journey of Rotary, to hold your why, to contemplate what are the things that you really care about across anything which is just the suffering of the human condition, and what it is that we are supposed to do as Rotarians. I'm going to change up a few words on this next slide, and this is just the first half talking about the why. But on this next slide, it reminds us of who a Rotarian is. A Rotarian is a person who digs wells for which they will never drink, vaccinates children under which they will never meet, restores eyesight for those they will never see, builds houses that they will never live in, educates children they will never know, plants trees they will never sit under, makes crawlers into walkers halfway around the world, knows that real happiness can only be found by helping others. This is our charge as Rotarians, but I think I have a woman that can say it a little bit better than me, so I'm going to show you all this quick video of Beyonce challenging us to remember our why as Rotarians and thinking about the work that we have to do in a society where there are multiple things going on at a time, and we need to figure out what our response will be. Thank you. So I think that's just a reminder of the preciousness of time. Chuck Credo has always reminded me of the gentleness of time that we have, and and the call of Rotary to redeem the time to make a difference with every moment that we have, whether it's pinning someone that you see, solving a water crisis along the road, or even acknowledging the community and challenges that Southeast San Diego faces every single day. So where does this leave us, and what am I asking us to do today? Simply sitting with critical hope. On the next slide is a definition from Jeff Duncan Andrade, who is a fantastic educational scholar who speaks to critical hope as the ability to objectively evaluate one's environment through a lens of equity and also envision the possibility of a better future. This is what our charge is as Rotarians, to sit within the context of pain, of suffering, of folks that don't have a place to sleep, and saying we can still have hope. Not in the sense of a saviorism, but in the sense of a responsibility to shared humanity and saying, is this actually the truth that I'm okay with folks having to sleep out on the streets? Is it fair that folks are not feeling the same way? Is it actually just for all concerned? If we do not have those places for folks to have a place to eat, to sleep, or have any food. So my ask to you all today, as you think about Rotary, is how will you maintain critical hope? Holding an examination of the challenges of the things you see, with also the hope and the hopeless of people in this room. Collectively coming together, as Paul Harris thought, across industry, across ability, across expertise, to say, I won't just solve a problem, I am going to eradicate it. I don't know if you all think about the power of polio and Rotary, saying we're not just going to try and understand what this problem is, we are going to say that this problem will never seem to exist again. And it moves on the next slide, I'll be brief on this one, society from a place of suffering to thriving. And this is what Rotary challenges us to look at. In what ways do we look at the conditions and say that we can challenge the conclusions that we see? That we move folks around from feeling powerless to saying they have control of their life. And there's two things I'll say on this. We can't just do this society, we can't do this within our Rotary clubs as well. I speak around the world on thinking about our clubs' need to reflect and belonging of all the things that we do. We have Corey and Andrea leading our DEI club, and it's simply on the next slide showing how are we thinking about, we can click again, inclusion as a space where everyone's coming together. We have it in this room, but we can still do more. So much research on the next slide shows that we can exist in the same space and have different experiences even in the same space. If I can be honest and share, many women of color have shared with me across Rotary their challenging experiences being seen as, I can share my own. I'll even go as a keynote speaker to an event, and oftentimes, I can guarantee you at least one Rotarian will ask me to clear their plate. And it's not that it's a bad thing, but then in the moment I have to examine what is the stereotypical theme that we see as a Rotarian, and did I not fit the bill? How can we really broaden what we see Rotarians as to know it is the heart of service that matters? It is the commitment to excellence, to thriving, to build clubs that are diverse, that meet the needs of all of our communities. Past Rotary International President spoke about our call to build peace, where he said peace is the soil where hope takes root. Building peace is the essence of Rotary. It is a result of working hard, earning trust, and having conversations that may be difficult. It needs to be wedged persistently. It's not about stopping wars. It's about stopping wars from ever even starting. This is the piece of the charge that we have. Jordan, I should go 3 slides forward, 2 slides forward. One more. I'm gonna leave all of this benediction after this. One more slide after this. You'll see a lot of footage again. I'm just gonna benediction, y'all do a poem about how we write. Here's what it says. May God bless you with discomfort about easy answers, half-truths, and superficial relationships, so that you may live deep within your heart. May God bless you with anger and injustice, oppression, and the exploitation of people, so that you may work for justice, freedom, and peace. May God bless you with tears to shed with those who suffer from pain, rejection, and starvation, so that you may reach out your hand to comfort them and turn their pain into joy. And may God bless you with the foolishness to believe that you can make a difference in this world, so that you can do what others claim cannot be done. Amen. Now, before I close, I'm going to leave off one more thing. I'm running time on time. One way I've been in all the Rotary things that I do, these shoes that were given from District 5030 in the Pacific Northwest, is I do a spoken word poem. So if you give me an object, any object, you can chair, table, mallet, whatever, what you got? Cell phone, perfect. Can someone give me a subject like love, hate, Rotary, service, whatever you got? You can give me service. Service, perfect. Okay. Can you give me the first sentence of this poem?
I believe.
I believe. Go ask Tex. Jordan, can you give me the second sentence? It could be whatever.
That we will win.
That we will win. All right, so here we go. And I'm gonna take this mic off and I will close out with this. So Rotary, what am I doing? Cell phone, service. I believe that we will win. Okay, I believe that we will win. Okay, here we go. All right, so I believe that we will win. As a matter of fact, I am convinced and solemnly sure that we will win because I have my cell phone. You see, my cell phone allows me to connect to everyone in society. It allows me to text. It allows me to call. It allows me to take photos, to capture moments. And the most moments that are important are the moments of service. It allows me to never forget that service is something that is an ongoing lifestyle, that through the calling I can connect through service, through the texting I can connect through service, through the photos I can connect through service. But no matter what, I will never lose the belief that I will win. And what a cell phone also reminds me of is that it's not just that I believe that I will win, it is through the connection that I understand that we will win. It is through the calling of someone else, through the collective shared solidarity of every person in my cell phone, that I understand that we will win. You see, Rotary is the ultimate cell phone to have in your pocket. It connects you to people in San Diego and around the world to understand that no matter who they are, if they are Rotarian, you will do service and we will win. So no matter what you do, keep your Rotarian cell phone with you and know that no matter what odds are against you, we will win. Thank you all very
Thank you so much. That was better. We have time for we have time for questions, if anyone would like to.
That was wonderful, thank you. Everybody was fuzzy. Well, you're very wide in what's going on now. Well, tell me what you're thinking about what's going on the college campuses right now.
Wow. Okay. Wow. You know, protest has been a part of America's story in a variety of ways. I think we're dealing with a challenging moment in time where there are voices who have not been heard for a while looking for a moment to hear, a moment to be seen, and a moment to have a conversation. I actually just left a conference this past weekend I was speaking at. It was on othering and belonging. And the conference was focused on how do you build a world of belonging without othering. And the challenge to sit with is there's pain to acknowledge and to hear the voices from what people are actually saying. I think in college campuses, there's a lot to lose and there's a lot to gain. And I think what's most important is how leaders are going to respond to what students are asking for leaders to actually hear what they're actually saying and decide what's the best way forward. That was a very political answer. We can talk offline on Sure.
We have time for another question.
So at UCLA this morning, they were arresting students, and one of them got up with her scarf on and said, "This is all in the name of DEI." Okay? Not giving a very good name to DEI. And meanwhile, they were throwing firebombs, destroying furniture, locking themselves in, preventing people from going to class, wanting to kill Jews and death to America. So, not a very good reflection on these people who want to have a conversation that you're talking about. I'm just being a little controversial because it is very controversial. It's not good.
Yeah, I think there's a variety of challenges within this conversation, but I'll also be honest and say this. Protests have been fundamental to pushing America towards justice. You can look at the 1960s. There was a variety of protests towards racial segregation, to the conversation we're having now, which is looking at how do we see humanity across spaces where humanity may not have been seen. And in terms of the name of DEI, I'm very careful with that word, because I understand that word has been very politicized and weaponized in a variety of ways. It has been transformed year over year. But if I think about us as Rotarians, it takes us back to our final question. Does it build goodwill and better friendships? And is it the truth? Is it beneficial to all concerned? And the truth of the matter is there have been systems, structures, and policies in place that have not been beneficial to all concerned for a variety of histories and sometimes even currently. And our reckoning with that allows us to have a just society. Are there going to be moments where there are probably behaviors at times where things aren't as ideal or perfect for everyone involved? Absolutely, but it can't have the conversation be missed entirely because of some behaviors that we feel like are not ideal.
Thanks for bringing up one more question.
Hi, Nancy Sasaki with United Way. I wanted to ask you, you've been around the world with all different kinds of Rotarian clubs. What do you see as our biggest challenge of stepping up to what Rotary means to everyone?
Giving up some of the traditions, I don't want to say traditions, I use this gym because I really honor some of the traditions of Rotary. But sometimes I think it's folks that are like, this has been my seat for 50 years. I will never move out of this seat. It's like, hold on. Like, there's someone that just sit next to them. I think some of the ways that we have been ingrained in some of the ways that Rotary operates has stopped some of the younger generation from joining in. So around the world, I think I've talked to a lot of Rotarians that are just like, we're trying to move forward, but sometimes it's tension, right? You have to respect some of the traditions that have existed while making room for the new traditions that are trying to emerge. And so how do you make space for both? It's a generational dialogue. It's a very delicate dialogue to have, but I think it's important to have for Rotary to stay relevant. I remember 3 years ago, the Rotary National President standing up and said, Rotary will be the next blockbuster if we don't figure out how to stay relevant to our next generation. And so if we don't do that, we can't do it.
Give him a real good hand. Not only was the presentation awesome, but you got to throw some fireball.
I did.
And Jordan, we appreciate you. This is really meaningful. I've been wanting to have Jordan speak for a very, very long time. And I know I've been in the club since '94 and I've never heard him speak at Club 33. Anybody here heard him speak at a club meeting? This may be maybe first and second right now, so this is the first time, so yes. So I've heard Jordan speak at camps, I've heard him speak places too, but the Beyonce video is so significant because when you go to Singapore, that's the kind of stuff we see. You know, when Rotarians from all over the world come in and they talk about these big issues and what you just asked Nancy and Frank are big issues that we have before us right now. And I think if you really stick to the Rotary way, you know, the four-way test is always good as well. But I just look back too that, you know, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King once said, we have before us a glorious opportunity to inject a new dimension of love into the veins of our civilization. And the end is reconciliation. All right, the end is redemption. The end is the creation of the beloved community. And I know Maria and I talk all the time about where is this beloved community every time we turn on the TV. And we've got 5 children, 8 grandchildren about to have our 9th in May. What's the future for them? And we've just listened to a young man on the move who is the future of Rotary. And I appreciate all that he said. And so Jordan, I know that you know that Gordon McNamara's Rotary International Presidential theme is create hope in the world. And may this one serve as a reminder of the hope for Rotary we share for all of us today, not only for Club 33, but Rotary all over the world. Because we take this speech and it's going to go all over the world. Trust me when I tell you.
Very much. I really appreciate it.
And also, too, my hope is how we can reimagine how we develop global leaders. There's a need today for global leadership. And so, in your name, we're going to allow the Student Self-Leadership Program from Blanchard to be embedded into any high school of your choice. It could be Steel Canyon where you went to. It could be any of the high schools that you speak around globally. But let's spread the word on how we can create these great global leaders right now. So one more big hand for Jordan. And a big hand for our community photographer, Michelle Porter. Jordan, thank you for your life, for doing good service before self on slave. And didn't we see that? I mean, he is a member of our club, but he's doing Rotary stuff above and beyond. We talk about people of action. What if we all did that? And what if everybody who comes to a meeting sees that session next week when you're going to build some respect and new members right now? So thank you so much. Thank you, Mark, and Bridget, and Carrie for your participation in today's program. And again, welcome to Club 33. David and Maya, well, we appreciate you joining our club. And remember, everybody, as was mentioned, we don't have anybody to bust the tables today, so please take what you brought to the table and put them in the trash can before you leave. And so now, Club 33 member who was instrumental in turning this Jackie Robinson family YMCA to this beautiful space we've seen here today. He's from the class of 1983. He's a 2011 Mr. San Diego, and his name is Peter Ellsworth, who will give us today's 32nd party message and then ring the bell to adjourn the 40th meeting of our 113th year. Please welcome Peter Ellsworth.
We are indeed fortunate to be in this place. Not much has been said, but this is not just a gym. This is a community center. This is a place where the people came when they were flooded out of their homes. This is a place where people come for jobs, for help. This is the kind of thing that really makes a community great. And I can't stop without saying that we would not be here today in this room if it were not for our president, Michael Brunker. It was through his leadership and his persuasive nature that this happened. And this is a tribute to you